Hello, everybody, and welcome to Knowledge is Power Podcast Live, and with your host Tony Renfro and my super co-host Richard Rosario and CLONIE Ambrose the third and Francis Larkins. They are joining me this evening as we get started on another segment of Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. Hello, guys. How you doing?
Great,
Oh,
Tony. How are
okay.
you?
Everybody's on.
Well,
Okay, great. Yeah, right. We've got another special guest tonight, and that's going to be from the Port Arthur city of Port Arthur, Miss Charlotte Moses. She is running for re-election for city at large in the city of Port Arthur. We're going to bring her on in a few minutes, but I want to make sure we let everyone know we still have to vote. We've got to vote and make your vote count. Please make your vote count. And we're going to vote like we never voted before. And we're going to vote like our life depends on it because actually our life depends on it. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yes. So we're
yeah,
going to make sure
definitely.
we're going to make sure we get everyone out to vote Tuesday. The poll's going to open at 7 and close at 7, and we're going to be ready. Hey, and also again, Jefferson County Democratic headquarters is still open until Monday and Tuesday at 2211 Calder Street here in Beaumont. And there's still yard signs that's available. You need information on your candidates because our show tonight is called. The topic is making Jefferson County blue, and this is what we got to do. And we are so behind right now, and we've got to pick that up. So, with that said, let me also um, let you know that Knowledge is Power Podcast Live, is a platform to share important information by educating the Southeast Texas African Americans community with valuable info on health, education, local politics, business, and personal finances. And we are glad to have on my guest tonight, Mrs. Charlotte Moses. Hello, Mrs. Moses.
Hello, how are you all doing?
We are great. We are doing just fine, and we are so glad to have you on as our guest tonight. Let me move you over here to the big screen. There we go. We're
Okay.
so glad to have you on tonight, and always want to those that I can get in touch with. I want them to know that we're concerned, and we want to make sure that your platform is shared, and we are behind you, and we support your group. I'm sorry, just supporting you as a candidate.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I've got my co-hosts here. I kind of threw a blind side on them, but they're here with me, Francis Larkin and Richard Serraro and CLONIE, and I'm sure I understand you know CLONIE. So,
Yeah.
Mrs. Moses, tell us about your precinct. Large. I know you're doing a sit at large, right?
Yes, sir. I cover the entire city. So anybody that lives anywhere, any of the precincts in Port Arthur can vote for me. I am serving one of the at-large positions. We have two at-large and the mayor's at-large, of course. And seats 7 and 8 currently are at-large positions, which means anybody can vote for me.
Well, great. And I know it, and I want you to make sure you let them know that how many at large seats there's available.
Only two. You have seat 7 and seat 8.
Right.
And those two seats are actually on the ballot as well to have them renumbered per the charter. And so they'll be known if it passes, the proposition passes, it'll be known as seat 5 and 6. So
Right.
that'll add up with the number of seats that we have on the council.
So we had a confusion here in Beaumont for many years since we added the at-large seat. They think that you only need one. You can only vote for one at large, but there's two seats available.
We have
So
two
you can vote
seats.
for two, right?
And the
So
mayor.
everybody can vote.
Everybody in the city of Port Arthur can vote for me and also for position 7 currently and position 8.
Right.
Mhm.
Guys, you can jump in if you'd like to ask Mrs. Moses anything. You are sure open to do that. But we just want to ask. Now, let me ask you this then, since my guests they're new to the show.
It's okay. Yes, sir.
So my guest, my co-host who usually on with me, she's taking a vacation,
Okay.
and so I asked my my guest here tonight to be my co-host tonight. So we usually go at a flow and just jump in. She's a little wild. She just say anything. So we, I knew
Ooh,
somebody.
ooh,
I knew
ooh.
some.
What?
I hope I can answer anything.
Nah.
I'll jump in there. I'll jump in there. Mrs.
Yeah.
Moses, what
Yeah.
prompted you to run for city council at large?
Well, back in 2015, prior to running for council, I served on the Economic Development Corporation for 2 years. So let me back up even further than that. I actually worked for the city for 20 years in human resources.
Okay.
I served in a position of administrative personnel analyst and deputy director of civil service. Always have been interested in politics. Even while I worked, I had to be very careful because I could easily get caught up in the politics of the city. My husband has been campaign manager of several people, so it never just popped up. Then I served as economic development commissioner for 2 years. And when I saw the progress of where the city was headed, serving on the economic development board, I just wanted to, when the position became available, to run for position 7 because I saw the opportunity and the direction Port Arthur was headed in with all of the economic development that we were doing. And so I decided to run for that open seat back in 2015. And but always interested. I love government, not really say politics. I love Port Arthur, and always interested in who's doing what. You know what I'm saying? Kind of, making a difference. So that's kind of where it started.
Well, what
I
is your
hope that
goal?
answers the
Yeah,
question.
you did.
It did.
Yeah. So what is this is your second term, correct?
Yes, sir. Will be my second and final term. You're only able to serve 2 3-year terms in the city of Port Arthur, so there are term limits. So
Okay.
this would be my last 3-year term if I win.
So what is your goals for the city for these next 3 years? What is your goals for the next 3 years?
Awesome. I'm so glad you asked me that because finishing what we started, I ran on a platform in 2015 of building a better Port Arthur because I really believe that our city is progressing, and so I'm always just building better. So what is better for us? Better is better infrastructure because our infrastructure it's old
Yeah.
and it needed some updating to it. So we needed new sewer and drains, pipes, of course, under before you can repair streets. We need new streets. We needed some things done. So in the next 3 years, I hope to see us get further along in the process of which has already been started. We've worked on about 10,000 feet of new infrastructure. We've applied for a grant for downtown Port Arthur for $97 million that would give us complete infrastructure downtown with the new downtown project with Motiva coming into downtown, which we're excited about. Their investment in Port Arthur. And then we've done some infrastructure work in Sabine Pass, and we've done some infrastructure work on Lakeshore Drive. And so we're hitting different areas, whereas we had not, it hadn't been it's old. Let me just say it's old. And it needed to be addressed immediately. So as I've been serving, those are things that are already started. They're already in the process. The work is being done. And what I like about it the most is that we're training our employees to do the work. So our city employees are learning skilled crafts that will take them. We don't have to worry about contracting out millions of dollars and the work not. You don't have much control over a contractor coming in or a company coming in to do the work that you bid the project to. You have project managers, but of course, you have more control when you have a city employee because you can get that work done. And then they're training new employees. And I'm hoping within the next 2 years of my term that I can see more employees trained to get that work done. The infrastructure, first of all, with pipe bursting. The second, with street crews. We are able to and have been able. We got a $30 million loan. We redid some bonds and we were able to get $30 million in bond money to repair the streets in Port Arthur. So what does that mean? That's $15 million a year for the next 5 years. And so we have started that. The first set of streets that were even begun, and I can't say I don't want to go back and say why it wasn't done. I'm just going forward. This first set of streets that were done, we've completed 41 streets between 2019 and 2020 with COVID in place. So what do I want to see done? I want to complete the infrastructure work that's begun. I want to see the streets program advance at a more rapid pace than it's going. We have 41 streets next up already in Port Arthur. And so I'm looking forward, because before you can dress up the city, you got to get the underneath. You know what I'm saying? The
Right.
foundation has to be right. And
Absolutely.
so, I always, and I use this, and I've used it on several different platforms that I've spoken on, is that my mom always told me, you cannot put clean clothes if on a dirty body.
Right.
So you can't go and lay asphalt and concrete and the groundwork has not been done. So if everybody would just be patient with us, I know they're at the end of their rope, because we see the dilapidated streets, or you hit a pothole. I hit one going down the street the other day, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was like, we gotta get it going. So I understand the pain, but we didn't get there overnight.
Right.
And so I just ask everybody to bear with us in the next 3 years. It's taking place, and it's gonna be complete. It's gonna be completed.
Yeah.
At least it's gonna take us a while to get there, but at least we're moving in the right direction. And I think someone with knowledge, the expertise, and the skills, and that has the background and the knowledge to know what's been done, needs to be put, back in the seat to continue that work, because it takes a new person. It took me 2 to 3 years to actually understand, and I worked for the city for 20. So
Right.
on this side of the table, understanding the contracts and how it worked, and making sure it was in place, and it was progressing. It took me study time. It took me time. I stayed up nights looking at the agenda, understanding the background information, the knowledge, how it worked. So we at this point, we don't have time. We need to keep it moving in this direction.
Okay,
Awesome.
I have a question, because you served 3-year terms, correct? So you
Yeah.
basically started in summer, well, you got sworn in summer 2017?
No, sir. I actually completed an unexpired term in 15. So I got
Oh, okay.
I had an election and then a runoff in 2015, and got sworn in 2016. And I served a
Okay.
year and a half, and then ran for election in 2017 for my own 3-year term. And now I'm serving if I'm successful in this election, I will serve this 3-year term, and then that will be all of what I can serve.
Okay. And so basically you've gone through 2 major storms, Harvey and Imelda. And those were during your first full term. So from those storms, what did you see that were some of the issues? And what do you hope to move forward with more storms looking to come our way within the next couple of years?
Well, with Harvey, what I'm thankful for, we were able to secure a $37 million grant on drainage grant that we were able to secure from FEMA. It's not matched. It's totally paid for in full. We will have a drainage areas in El Vesta. We'll have one in Stonegate, and we'll also have one in Port Acres. So those are the 3 areas that were selected, which is going to give us in the city of Port Arthur retention ponds and a better drainage system, so that if we incur another hurricane such as Harvey, we'll be better positioned and that work is taking place right now. So that's 3 major areas that flooded. And so we are looking forward. The work is being done right now in Stonegate, where they're building retention ponds and making sure that we don't have as much as possible. Now, we can't predict God's work, but certainly with those drainage projects, we would certainly curb and give Port Arthur an opportunity to not encounter what we encountered at Harvey.
Well, thank you, Charlotte Moses, City of Port Arthur city at large, and we're wishing you all the luck. And you're giving us, you spoke well on what your platform is, and we wish you the best. We really like what you're doing, and I hope you. My prayers off to you. Okay, you
Thank
know,
you, Mr.
before I let you go, I was thinking about it, guys, and we talked about, here in the city of Beaumont, we don't have term limit, which we do need, and um, I'm opening up a can of worms, but I don't care. Uh, and I think that 6 to 8 years term, limit is a term. Yeah, terms is enough. Yeah, term limits is great. I love to have term limit, but between 6 and 7 years on the board is enough time to do what you need to do. And I hope we can kind of address that in our city as well. But Miss Charlotte, I've followed you since you've been on the city council, and um, that's something I always do. What's going on in Jefferson County, and you guys are doing a great job. What you're doing, and your streets that happens. It didn't happen overnight. We know all
Right.
about it. I mean, it's the same thing here with us. I went down one street. I thought I was at Beirut, but
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's a mess.
but we are working, and what I'm glad about is that something's being done, and I'm
Yeah,
so thankful for the bond money that we were able to get. We didn't overdo anything. We didn't go out of what we couldn't handle. We just repositioned some bonds and some money and paid off some other loans, and were able to get a great rate for the street repair. And the Economic Development Corporation funded us over $1 million in over a 3-year period to help with that. So I was glad to have the influence from the EDC to come in and help us with that street project. So I mean, I love it. I know it. I love working it, and I want to make it happen for our city. You have to be serious about what you're doing when you run for office.
that's right. That's absolutely correct.
Lastly, Miss Charlotte, when does your city council meet, and are your meetings available online?
Yes, they are. If you go to our website, the live meetings are past recorded meetings are available. Right now, we're meeting via Zoom, and we'll meet every other Tuesday. For instance, we just met this past Tuesday at 5:30. So our next meeting that's coming up will be at 11 o'clock. We do a morning meeting and then an afternoon meeting.
Oh,
So, and they do live stream them. So you are able to tune in, just dial in and put the code in by Zoom.
okay, very good.
Thank you again for accepting my invitation to Knowledge of Its Power. Share it with your friends and loved ones and those who are your constituents, and let them know what's going on here in Port Arthur, Texas. Thank you, Ms. Moses.
We're on the move. We're
All
making it
right.
happen.
Great, great.
All
Now
right.
let's go here again. Let's go here with my other group here, and let's go to the poll. Our topic is making Jefferson County blue, and we was talking earlier behind stage and backstage about where our numbers are. And Richard, let the viewers know that we are behind here in Jefferson County. We are behind in votes as the numbers are coming in, and we want to keep
Yeah.
us aware of what's going on. So tell us what's going on there.
Okay. Just some, I guess, updates from our chairman, Judge Trahan. He was saying that our numbers as a whole are looking better, but some of our Democratic stronghold precincts are lower, as opposed to some of the Republican stronghold precincts in Weston, Beaumont, and Mid-County. Those are actually higher than what they were before. And so there seems to be almost a disparity. Looking at traditional voting patterns and applying that to now, we are a bit underwards what we should be in order to have a competitive race. And of course, we don't really, I mean, if you want victory, it's not so much competitive, you want to go over. And so Joseph has been really doing a lot of phone banking and GOTV this past weekend, or this current weekend, I should say, since it's not technically over, and trying to get people out of those precincts out and voting. Those precincts are mainly in North and Beaumont and Port Arthur, I believe. And so trying to get those precincts and those voters out, because now the last day, or basically the day to vote now, is November 3rd, which is Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And after that, that's it. And if there are any mail-in ballots, basically, I think we have our elections director here with us. I'll put that over to her and let her handle that. But as far as turnout, yes, it's sort of been okay when you look at numbers as a whole, but looking strategically at the individual precincts, it seems like we're behind, and we definitely do not want to be, especially this election.
Someone is missing. It's popped out, popped in, and popped up. Who was
that was
that?
Naomi, I believe.
Naomi, yes. Where are you? Well, Clonie, you can speak up on it if you like to, because I can't. Your mic is muted.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm trying to pull up
that's
the number
okay.
the site real quick. Yeah, I think, as far as turnout in general for a presidential election, we are ahead as compared to 2016. But those analytics that you're speaking of in Democratic strongholds, yeah, I haven't looked at those specifically, but I could see that some of those areas are those ones that are kind of harder to turn out. I'm hoping that people are just waiting till election day because it's that great day. But it is incumbent upon us to get those people out to the polls. And so there has to be an extreme push in those areas. I know those areas, those are part of my jurisdiction as well. And keeping people engaged is super important, and letting them know it's time for a change. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was expecting someone else to jump in.
Well, I do have questions.
This is where you can jump in anytime.
Oh, yeah.
Conversation going. There we go.
I definitely have a question, and I think this has been addressed a couple of times on in different groups and different platforms. But when just my neighbor just yesterday and today also at my nail shop, they were saying I've been here for 40 years and I've never voted. I don't think my vote counts. I've heard that consistently. Like, that's a running theme. I'm not really understanding how to respond to that in a way other than you need to exercise your right to vote. It is your right. So what can I say to people that really do not feel that their vote matters? I kind of start with it locally and say, hey, if nothing more, it matters locally. And on a federal level, it's a trickle down effect. So what's a more strategic way of me doing that and really push them and urge them to get out and vote other than me knocking on their door and threatening them?
So you hit on things. So you talked about voter registration, and I'm sorry, guys, we're packing this stuff in our house. I have to be outside. But you hit on some good things about being registered to vote. When people say, well, I haven't voted in the last few years, they first need to check their registration status, because after so many federal cycles of missing an election, you get purged off the list. And that is by law in the state of Texas. Sometimes we have voter registrars that are a little bit more aggressive in the way they purge our voters. So that's an issue, right? And so making sure people are always hyper aware every year to be registered and check their registration status. But as far as your vote counting, I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, you cast it, it's going to get tallied, period.
Right.
You vote a regular ballot, is going to count. But as far as impact, the local level is the one that's more clearly understood, right?
Right.
This sheriff's race is integral to how our county is run and operated and policed. And I think in these times that we're living in right now, that's probably going to be your biggest push, because we see the things that are going on in law enforcement with bad policing. So when you say, does my vote matter? Well, we want someone who actually cares about the citizens and protecting people who are in minority and disadvantaged groups. So absolutely, your vote counts. It counts as something something you can see every single day. Local races have the biggest impact. And I think just kind of pushing that particular one. I mean, when we start talking federal, if people know at a high level about the Electoral College, it's a difficult argument.
Right. That's the problem. That's the comeback usually. But I'm gonna knock on his door next door and let him know.
Yeah.
So that will be my response to him.
I hear people say the same thing. Oh, my vote don't count. My
How do you know if you don't vote?
Yeah, well, you don't know if you don't vote. Now, I need to say this is that if you think your vote don't count, Why do you think they're trying to suppress us so much? Why are they fighting so hard, going to taking us to court after court, to appeal and after appeal to keep us from voting? So our vote does count, and it doesn't matter. It makes a matter. So
yes, and I think it's really embarrassing that Harris County had the drive-through. So they're trying to do everything possible to try to keep people safe, trying to do as much as they can, and you still have people trying to invalidate 127,000 votes.
right,
I mean, what's the reason for that? I mean, are you really that scared? If you look, unfortunately, the people who have been in power have been statewide for almost 2 decades, if not a little bit more. And so you look at basically starting in 2010, one of the most hyper gerrymandered maps to ever existed. That's a way to disenfranchise voters. Then you look at the voter ID laws. That's another way to disenfranchise voters. Then you look at the fact that they have removed 750 polling places. That's another way to disenfranchise voters. And right now, all these lawsuits to try and delegitimize mail-in ballots, try to delegitimize drive-through, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of ballots out there. I mean, at what point do you, I mean, someone watching this, at what point do you say, okay, this party definitely is trying to disenfranchise a certain population here?
right.
I mean, look at the counties that they're targeting. And so if voting is really not something that matters, why are they pouring millions of dollars into winning these seats so they can do the gerrymandering, so that they can do the voter ID laws, so that they can do these lawsuits? Because these lawsuits cost millions of dollars to do
Those are
and
great
millions of
points.
dollars to appeal. And so all this money that they're pouring into it, it means our vote means something. But the
Right.
fact is, if you look at local levels, Judge Lina Hidalgo of Harris County, it was a very close race against a very popular Republican that she managed to win. That was a huge Democrat year in 2018. But if you look at 2016 under the Republican, he spent about $7 million in voting. But if you look at Lina Hidalgo, that's 31 million. So you're talking about almost 5 times more money. And so you get this huge turnout because now people have an opportunity. And so that's why it's very, that vote is very sacred. Like, I guess, like y'all said, if it wasn't as sacred, it wouldn't be
We suppress.
that many people trying to pour millions of dollars basically down the drain because we are still having turnout. We're still coming out, and just to keep you from voting. And as always, the same people win when the same people vote. So if you never voted, that's a good reason why you don't see anyone new. So if you want someone new, you're going to get new voters to come and vote. And I don't
Right.
think we introduced Naomi. She just kind of started
I'm
talking.
sorry. We don't have a commercial break, so I just brought on in the show. And usually on you know, on television,
I think we got passionate, and I'm like, I don't think we introduced.
But let me introduce our guest tonight, Naomi Shower Dahl. She is the JP of Precinct 1, Place 1, correct?
Judge-elect, yes, sir.
Right. Here in Jefferson County. And I'm so sorry, Naomi. I just brought you on in the show. I scared one off and brought one on in.
I know I was
And
trying to look for numbers to give y'all. I was like, oh Lord.
yeah. I'm sorry. And we also have a couple of more guests that's going to be joining us later in the show. And I want you to know that we're going to be on live Tuesday, election night, for the election result for the local Jefferson County election results on Tuesday with my group, the Roundtable Talk folks. Well, and my co-host should be back by then. If she's not, I'll see you, Francis, on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
But we're going to have folks on location. So I guess you probably will have to be here because I have people on location at watch parties so that you can report from the watch party and live, and I would to have you all linked in. So we want to make everybody aware of what we're going to be doing and be informed of what's going on. And I'm going to have the ticket taper down at the bottom, giving you the updates on the counts of the votes. So, Richard, did you see that today the Texas Judge Supreme Court Republican, all Republican, reject the drive-through request appeal? So those 127,000 votes will count in Harris County
as of now, because they actually, like I said, they're spending a lot of money because they put it through the state courts and then they put it through the federal courts. So the state court already met its limit at the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court, even though it's all Republican, not a single Democrat, they said without an opinion or anything like this BS. Y'all
Right.
can't do this. Y'all can't throw out 127,000 votes.
Right.
But it's still going through the appeals court. And so tomorrow at a federal appeals court, they're going to hear it and see whether it's tossed out or not. And then from there, they're probably going to push it to the Supreme Court. And that's why that was very nerve-wracking to an extent to have that 6-3 majority, because now 3 of them are Trump appointees. Now, in theory, they're supposed to be only strictly to the law and not have any political leaning one way or another. But we've seen that's not the reality in every single case. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And so we'll see at the Supreme Court what happens. But yeah, these are cases that we've never seen before, all the way from the bottom to the top. And there's going on state Supreme Courts and now the U.S. Supreme Court about voter suppression.
So we should know something about that tomorrow, right?
Yes, we will know tomorrow if that appeals judge rules in favor or against. Either way, I see it going to the Supreme Court, regardless of which way he rules tomorrow.
They are spending millions of dollars to keep us to suppress us from voting. So
That's the president. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you have a president talking about, okay, so now mail-in voting is bad, but he did it. Right. His daughter did it. His son-in-law did it, but it's bad. And so how does that make sense? It doesn't, but that's not his thing. It's not to make sense. It's to instill fear. And so unfortunately, you have a lot of people that listen to him that now it's like, oh, they're trying to steal an election because now you have mail-in ballots. It's like, we've always had mail-in ballots. It's just because of COVID, you want to extend it a little bit, but there's always been that system in place. But that fear, it works.
That's just an aspect of confusion as well. When you throw in that doubt with, people not knowing what to do, since it's such a time effective situation, people just run around and just get confused. Basically, they don't know what to do. My aunt, I think that's exactly what my aunt was trying to explain to me this morning. She's about 75 years old. She was so confused. So I think it adds an element of confusion to allow people just not to know what to do in order, and maybe they won't do anything. So just another way to suppress.
And I want to speak to something because I'm currently the elections manager in our county. And so what we're seeing as far as how things are supposed to be nonpartisan, especially like in how the Secretary of State renders and understands and rolls out policy and procedures for elections based off the election code. What we're seeing is a very leaning to the right understanding of the law, of election law. And I can call one attorney at the Secretary of State and get one, and you can tell one person has a left-leaning opinion, then another person has a right-leaning opinion. But overall, we're just seeing this push towards a very conservative understanding of election law. And and I've been following the Harris County Clerk, and I mean, hats off to him and Judge Hidalgo and everything that they're doing out there to make sure voting is more accessible and safe for their voters. But the forces that they're meeting, like you said, right now, those 127,000 votes are okay, but we don't know what tomorrow holds. And then, I mean, they're ready. Like literally, suits are being filed, and then a decision is made, an appeal is immediately made. And so these things are happening every single day in elections, and to see it at this point just says like, this is what happens when we let people be in charge and we sit at home and we don't vote and we don't care, and these people come and they take their interpretation of the law and they use it to suppress and to hinder votes of minorities, votes of people who are different than them. It's really, really sad. This has been a very difficult election to work because of it, because the things that I'm having to do in our office to be in accordance to what the Secretary of State says feels like we're trying to suppress people's votes.
Right. And Richard, if you mentioned something just a minute ago, can you elaborate basically? And so not just for my knowledge, maybe for others that may be listening, about actually like what's going on with the mail-in ballots. Can you break it down into make the minimal a fraction for people that are listening?
Okay. I guess at a national scale, some states said that they were going to expand mail-in ballots. But the thing is, some states already had universal mail-in ballots to begin with. And so from there, because of COVID, some of the states, especially some of the competitive ones that Democrats took over in 2018, that used to be conservative or Republican, they were thinking of expanding mail-in ballots to be universal so that everyone gets a mail-in ballot, and you're doing it 30 days ahead of time so that you get it in time to fill it out and then send it off. But unfortunately, the president didn't like that, and especially in those battleground states. And so he tried to slow it down, and he realized that he really couldn't do it, I guess, through the legal channels. And so he did it almost through executive order and through fear. And one of executive order is that we all know the United States Postal Service was basically under attack. The funding got slashed, and then the person that he appointed was slowing the mail down. And that was huge because he actually admitted to slowing it down so that you wouldn't count those mail-in ballots. And like you said, that caused a lot of fear and confusion in people. And so it's like, okay, I guess I'm not going to mail it off. I can hand it off. And so that almost was like a baton handing to the Texas governor. And at first, Harris County, I believe, was going to have 10 locations that you can go and drop off your ballot because Harris County has about 4 or 5 million people in it. But then he closed it down and said you only have one location out of the entire county for millions of people that you can drop it off. And so, again, a lot of confusion. If you're like at one of the extremes, like if you're in Baytown, now you have to go and drive all the way to downtown to that courthouse to drop it off. And normally, if you're a disabled person or if you're an elderly person, you don't have that transportation and you rely a lot on mail. And so now the mail is delegitimized basically because it's slowed down. Now you have to find transportation to get to the polls. And then now it's like it might be too late. You have to go drop it off in person. And if you're already disabled and if you're already an elderly person, you don't want to expose yourself to the coronavirus, which you're already seeing news spikes. So that's how that mail-in ballot almost works. Well, it did work, where now there's a lot of confusion and fear around it. But at the end of the day, there's been almost zero evidence that there's any fraud in mail-in ballots, which is the whole claim that if you expand mail-in ballots, there's going to be a lot of fraud. Well, none of that has ever been founded. And even when Greg Abbott, our governor, was attorney general, again, same thing, millions of dollars to find out that there were 3 cases of voter fraud in the entire state of Texas of millions of people that voted. So
tomorrow, I'm sorry. So tomorrow when we're block walking and someone asked me about the mail-in ballot situation, what should I explain to them?
I'm going to leave that up to Naomi. I'll let her explain about what to do exactly with your mail-in ballot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so the options that we have in Jefferson County for our mail ballot voters, we have one location, as Richard just referenced, we have one location per our attorney general and our governor, and that is at the Jefferson County Courthouse. It is a drive-through option where they can deposit their mail ballot.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up, Naomi.
For our voters who
Naomi, you're kind of breaking up a little
bit.
I can't. Yeah. Now we can't. Now you're kind of breaking up a little bit. But what you can't. Also, while we're talking about it, Constable Chris Bases also has joined us as well, so we can continue to go. And you probably need to There we go. She just left us. So let's bring on Chris, guys. Chris, we are trying to make this county blue again, and we've been talking about getting folks out to vote and where we missing the boat at. Francis and Richard and CLONIE is here, and we just talking, and Naomi was speaking at the turn. What did you ask her? I'm sorry, I missed that. I was sharing stuff over.
That's okay. I asked Naomi during our block walk tomorrow, if asked about mail-in ballots, what would be the best response to our people, our community. So she was giving me some advice and tips on how I should advise them to drop off their mail ballots at the county courthouse. I believe that's what she was trying to say.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to say. She's going to pop back in a minute. But now we have our other guest, Constable Chris Bates. Guys, y'all take over.
Well, I appreciate you all inviting me again to come on to the podcast and speak and just encourage people to vote. You see what my shirt says? It says "Young PA Vote." So everybody know I'm from Port Arthur, Texas. I love my city, and so I'm encouraging our young people to get out and vote in Port Arthur. But of course, everywhere. But Port Arthur is near and dear to my heart. So of course, I want Port Arthur to do the best voting numbers that they can. So definitely. Port Arthur, if you're listening and you into this podcast, get out and vote on Tuesday. We need you. I need you. Even though I'm not on the ballot, voting on my name is on the ballot, but uncontested. I still want you to get out and vote. It's that important to our community that we do that. So, but in order for us to turn this county blue, as what the title says, is that we just have to get out and vote. We have the numbers to do what we have to do to make this thing happen. We have more than enough votes to do it, but we sit on the power that allows us to do that. And it's important for you to know a lot of people don't want to vote. I say they don't want to vote because their vote doesn't matter. And we've heard that over and over and over. But I want to let people know that, first off, your vote does matter. But secondly, you, the people, the constituents, have the power. I work for the people. That's the people that voted me in. That is who I work for. Every elected official works for the constituents, the citizens in the city, the county, the state, and this nation. We work for you. So when you understand that we work for you, and we are the employee, and you are the employer, so that should let you know that you have the power right there. Why would you let someone that works for you tell you what to do? It don't go down like that. Trust me. You have the power, and we work for you, and so you have to understand that. Until you really understand that, then people are gonna continue sitting at the house when it's time to get out and vote. So, like I told Mr. Tony that I was gonna be late, and I'm gonna pop in and out because it's definitely important to get the word out. Look like somebody's calling me right now. Hold on, I don't know if it stopped me. Okay, I'm back in. So, but anyway, it's important that we get the vote out. I was on one Facebook Live earlier, and then I'm about to start doing some more phone banking and calling people, individuals, because we do have the list. It's public record. I said it on my Facebook. Anybody that follows me on Facebook know I said we got the list, and I see some names on the list. And y'all told me y'all voted. Somebody told me a story.
Yeah, someone told me a story too.
So,
Quite a few told me a story.
hey,
if my co-host was here, I'll tell like it is. Someone told me a damn lie. Yeah, they lied to me.
That's exactly right.
I got the list. I know who has not voted as
That's
of
it.
today. So
Right.
we're going to call these people. And I started calling them yesterday, yes. So we're gonna continue to call these people and make them know that we know you hadn't voted. Now get your ass on up there and vote, because if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Right.
You can't complain if you don't vote.
You cannot. So like I said, I was gonna pop in and out so I can get back on these calls, but man, we have to do what we know we need to do. And that is a question on one of the questions that was always asked of me on election day is what precinct I need to vote in, what location I need to vote in. You can vote anywhere in Jefferson County. I'm sure people are still gonna ask me about it, but we're gonna post a list. You can vote anywhere. So there may be some hot spots as far as where voting people like to vote at the Johns Library, at Rogers Park, at the John Davis Community Center, or even in Port Arthur at the library. You don't have to stand in those lines and wait when there's a voting location around the corner that is virtually empty. Right. So you don't have to do that. So understand that there's other locations, and I'll be blasting it all from today until Tuesday, all day Tuesday, and letting people know that, hey, don't sit in this line when you don't have to, when around the corner the other voting location is empty. So let's continue pushing that word as well. And I think, Naomi, you're back. They wanted you to finish asking about the mail-in drop-off for the mail-in ballots.
Okay. Yeah. So the county, we have our one location where you can drop off. That's 1085 Pearl Street, the courthouse. There's actually a tent available where you can voters can remain in their vehicle, present proper ID, and they can deposit their ballot into the ballot box. So especially since we are at a time crunch at this moment, you have to have your ballot in our office by November the 4th with a postmark of November the 3rd. So in your mind, just understand if you have a mail ballot, that has to be in our office November the 3rd. That's what you should shoot for. So that means you need to get somebody to get you to get to the mail ballot drop off, and then you'll be able to go ahead and deposit that mail ballot. Also for our
so at this point they shouldn't, on Monday they don't need to drop it in the mailbox at this point.
No,
Correct?
No, bring it.
I would not.
No.
Not that I don't trust the mail. We realistically, it's not gonna.
I don't trust the mail.
I don't trust them.
I don't trust the mail. I'm sorry. It's too important for me to trust another entity with my ballot. So no, I'm gonna drop it off.
Some of our voters are choosing to vote in person, even though they've been mailed a ballot. Maybe it never got to them. Maybe they want to now vote on the machines. So election day, if they have their ballot, they need to bring it with them to the polling place. Okay. If you have your ballot, it's been mailed to you, but you want to vote in person, bring it with you to the polling place. They'll cancel it. And then you'll be able to vote on the machine. Now, say you don't have your ballot. Okay. You don't have your ballot.
But you requested one. You requested a mail ballot.
Like you've been mailed one, and we'll be able to tell from when we look you up if you have been mailed one. If you've been mailed one and you don't have it with you, still come to the polls. We can do something called a provisional ballot. And it's like a 10-minute process for us to get that done. But if we never receive your ballot in the mail, your provisional should count. So there are still provisions in place for you to be able to vote. Whether you got your ballot or not and you want to vote in person, we can still handle you. So just be mindful of those things. No reason to stay at home. You can definitely come and we can make it work for you.
That's great information, Naomi. Thank you. I will share that tomorrow. I'm sure that will be a question.
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask Chris Bates a question, but my screen went off for some reason. I wanted to ask him how was the voter turnout in Port Arthur, but I'll give him a call later on.
Well, he's got to be back on for a few minutes before we close. Charlotte Moses, our earlier guest, Naomi, she's running for city council at large in Port Arthur. If you guys can look at the comment screen, you can see that, and you can see where she's giving us information on the election day polling location within the city of Port Arthur.
Okay.
And you guys. Important, and maybe Chris said it when I was off, but in Port Arthur there's two separate elections going on, right? So we have our county election, and then they have their separate election.
Right.
Right. So they talked about it. So just make sure that you vote in both of them if that is your desire to make sure you vote in the Port Arthur election.
Right. So the voting locations in Port Arthur, the location within the city of Port Arthur is the Queen Elementary. At 740 DeQueen Boulevard in Port Arthur, Zion Hill Baptist Church at 5848 Roosevelt Avenue in Port Arthur, the sub courthouse at 525 Lakeshore Drive, and Port Acres Elementary at 6301 Pat Avenue, and O.W. Collins Retirement Center, 4440 Guthrie Drive, and the Port Arthur Public Library at 4615 9th Avenue, and the R.L. Gabby Eldridge Center at 5262 South Guthrie Drive in Port Arthur. So that's no excuse. You got those in Port Arthur has enough polling locations to make their vote and make their vote count. So go ahead, Clonie. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say this. You just named all the polling locations that are open in Port Arthur. I will say this: every person in Port Arthur, if you have not voted, Tuesday is your last day. There's no excuse for you not to vote in this upcoming election, and that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Well, that's Francis, and as written. And guys, y'all miss my little co-host, huh? My little raunchy co-host, huh?
Yeah.
I do. I miss LaDonna. She will say anything and everything.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah. I have to even take a back seat sometimes. Like, God. But I'm good at mine.
LaDonna remind me of the cussing poochie.
But she telling it like it is, baby. Hey, be real. Hey,
So
guys.
to stay on, oh, go ahead. I
Go
was going to ask
ahead.
Naomi a couple questions, but go ahead.
Go ahead, ask Naomi.
When it comes to painting, I know you're the vice chair for the Young Democrats. When it comes to painting the county blue, what are your thoughts? Like, what are some of the things that we could be doing as young people to help progress with the county?
Yeah, and so I know people say this all the time, but it's about us meeting that age group and that community, that group of voters where they are. So you're not going to get them always to come out to an event that you're hosting, but what's
Mhm.
going on the college campuses? Where are they mingling at or whatever? Where are they chilling? Where are the kids who are not in college? Where are they going on the weekends? I mean, if they're at the clubs, do we need to be in the parking lots? Hey,
I heard you were at the clubs registering people to vote.
whatever it
That's what
takes,
I heard.
whatever
And
it
I think that was pretty awesome.
but we really do have to meet them where they are because I
Yeah.
think there's this big misconception that because anytime you're older, and you could be 5 years older than somebody, and you like an
Yeah.
old kid now, right? And so they think that we're just disconnected, and it's like
Yeah.
we have the same issues, baby. We've been there. We know what you're going through, like, and we're just trying to give you a little guidance, not telling you what to do, but why sleep on your power, because group right there with the numbers to really make and shake up this whole county, shake up this nation, this state. And if they can get on board with that, I don't know if you guys saw, but Lamar is doing a stroll to the polls event on
Mm.
Tuesday, where they're like the fraternities and stuff and sororities are
Mhm.
gonna go and march over there. Amazing. That's exactly what we need. That's
What
powerful.
time will that start? I think I'll attend.
3:30. 3:30.
Okay, in Montaigne Center, correct? Is it going to go over the bridge? What's the path?
Yeah.
3:30.
Yeah,
Okay.
3:30. I don't know what the path is, but they're gonna get over there to the Montaigne Center and they're gonna exercise their right to vote. And so it's just things like that, making sure that we're supportive in that. So if we can go out there and like cheer them on, maybe that's what we need to do. But I think we got to do a lot more reaching back. And I think in our generation, we're all in this generation. Most of us on this call,
Mhm.
we know that there's been a disconnect in older generations reaching back to us, right? So
Right, right.
cycle, and we got to make sure that we're reaching back to the younger generations and not just trying to sun them and make sure that they're younger than us. You don't know no better. It's about how we approach, and we just need to be real with them because that's what they relate to, that's what they respond to.
Okay, very good. I'll be there on Tuesday.
I guess last week or last time we were talking about young voters, and we actually had some young leaders here. You're one of them. And Naomi, what was it like being the youngest in your race? Because you ran in the primary, and then you ran in a scary, like COVID had just happened, runoff, and then you eventually won. So what was that like, being a young candidate running for an office where normally you have people that are in their 60s or 50s and 60s and a little older?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. This is probably the best answer I can give you. Preparation is prophecy, right? Prophetic. Because I feel like the things that I've done in my life to get me prepared for that moment, whether it was when I worked retail and had to sell cell phones or whatever, you learn from those experiences, right? From the education I received from those things. So those things help prepare me for that moment because you're coming in and people are doubting you immediately because you're young. So you have to be ready, prepared, knowledgeable about what the subject matter is, what you can do, what you can't do. Be poised for the moment and actually be about the change that you're talking about. I don't think you need to run anybody else's race. You have to be true to who you are, make sure that you're prepared. And that's kind of the things that helped me when things were like all these different changes that happened during the pandemic. I mean, that stuff was crazy. And it was always a curveball here and there. But as long as you can lean back on solid foundation, preparation, and the things that then that'll help you through. help me.
Okay. And was there something like a bit of a challenge that you had because of your age, or a misconception, or just a struggle overall during your race?
So, yeah, I mean, just in general, because, you know, people just think that because you're young, you don't know anything. But then, you know, once they hear you speak and they hear that you actually know what you're talking about, that helped change minds. But also because I was hearing some things from the community that it wasn't my time. I should let older person go ahead and have that because it's not my time. LaDonna, if she was here, I think she would say something to the effect of what is it? Something about you grab power or something. It's not past or whatever. You have to seize the moment. And it's that fight and that fire that maybe some people think the younger generation has, but I know for sure that I do. And so make sure that regardless of what thought my time, if God time, that meant I had to do what I had to the things that he told me. And so that's how I move. Yeah, you just got to be confident in yourself and in the things that you're prepared for.
All right.
All right, guys.
And just to piggyback off of what Naomi said about being consistent, but not only be consistent, but be confident in who you are. Not only be confident, but be consistent. I think it is very important that each and every young person should not be judged on how they're making the right choice, because voting is not a right, it's a responsibility. And if we can stand in line for anything else, if we can stand in line for things that are not worth, I can stand in line like our life depends on us. We will keep saying this until Tuesday. And matter of fact, not even Tuesday. We'll keep saying this for the next 4 years. A change has to come. You cannot just talk about change. You can't just talk the talk and not walk the walk. You have to walk it like you talking. I said it last Tuesday. You have to be the change. Whenever you be the change, you walk up into the booth and vote. And so you can understand that you can not only talk about change, but be the change because you exercise your right. You did what you needed to do. And once you do that, you can go find other people that have not exercised their right and get them, draw them in, bring them to the polls, do what they can, and let them be the change with you. So I think not only being confident but being consistent, and that's my take on it. And we just have to make sure that each and every young person, if we want to make Jefferson County blue again, we have to vote, 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 vote. And I'll add one more thing to that. Not only should we vote, but we should pray as well, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and Tuesday. I don't want to live another 4 years with this narcissistic president who don't care about nobody but himself. I want some change. I believe, I know every one of us on this panel is ready for a change. So let's not talk about change, but be about change.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Clonie. We do have to make that change from the local all the way up to the top of the ballot. We're going to start from the top and we're going to go all the way down in the number 2 position on the ballots, and that's the Democratic Party. And we're going to vote like our lives depends on it. Naomi, thank you for stopping by again and again and giving us valuable information. And I thank my co-hosts, Francis Larkins and Richard Rosario and Clonie Ambrose, for stopping in and helping me out today. But again, on Tuesday, join us. We'll be live for 2-3 hours as we have our election results on Knowledge is Power podcast live, starting at 7 o'clock. Hey, listen, guys, if you guys are going to be out somewhere and you're going to be at anybody watch parties, please.
Yeah.
Please, yes, just hit me up. I'll send you a link and just give us a report what's going on.
Absolutely. I think my day will start since I hear they're doing the stroll at Lamar. It'll start around 3, so I'll be out and about.
So, and also again, Francis, you guys tell them about your block walking tomorrow, correct?
Oh yeah, Joseph sent out a couple text messages and asked me to participate in block walking today and tomorrow. However, I was unable to participate today with the late notice, but we will be block walking tomorrow. There is an app, I believe, that he's going to shoot out a link for, which I guess will give me in a particular area to block walk. So I'm waiting on those details. I thought he was going to be on the call this evening to grab those details to anyone else that would want to participate, but I guess I'll have to get with him a little bit later tonight. But the walk begins tomorrow at 11. And Richard, if you have any information on it, we're open to hear.
Okay, I know tomorrow and Tuesday, especially and anytime during the day, they're going to be the at the Democratic headquarters. You can go by to get any help. But I know that there's the Democratic Head Party hotline that you can call, and I believe Mary Bonds is the one that handles that.
Okay.
And so the number to get in contact with her is it's 409-212-3366. That's for the headquarters. If you want to volunteer, the number is 409-212-3366. I believe they open up at 10. So if you would like to help, that there should be someone there starting at 10 for you to go. And if you work, but your evening is fine, I think they're also going to be needing at least phone bankers. I'm not sure how block walking or lit drops is going to work tomorrow because of the time change. So it's going to start getting dark around 5:30ish. But they're probably going to need the help some way, somehow. And so if you want to help, if you want to make that change, contact the the Democratic Party headquarters at 409-212-3366.
Hey, one other thing, Naomi, I'm going to post this on the screen and explain to it, or if you can see it, explain to the viewers the voting rights that the citizen has at the polls. Oh, you don't see it?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to read it.
Oh, okay. Well, if you can, I can. I knew that you was part of that. And that's the voting is right.
So what I'll say, I don't know, you know where this came from, this particular graphic?
Yes.
Okay. So
we have a local number as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can call the elections office at 409-835-8760.
Yes.
You feel like you're you got that? 835-8760. And what I'll say is you may run into some issues with using your cell phone in the poll place because it's prohibited. So that taking the picture, if you can, you're more than likely going to get told not to do that, and you could be asked to leave the polling place if you take your phone out. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want people to do the wrong things. But yes, a poll watcher may not be in the voting booth with you. They're not supposed to be seeing how you vote. If a poll worker is assisting you in any way, they have the right to be near, so they can hear and make sure that everything is taking place the right way. But they do not have the right to be in the voting booth over your shoulders with you. So if that's the case, you can definitely tell them, you're interfering with my voting process. I would definitely make a stink about it so that our election workers can then escalate the issue if necessary. But be prepared for poll watchers. They're going to be out and about, and they have very specific rules that they can and can't do. We try to train our poll workers to understand that. But you as a voter, if you feel like you're being intimidated, they shouldn't even be speaking to you. Poll watchers are not allowed to talk, communicate in any way with any voter. So there's that. And if that is taking place, you need to let the judge know and tell the judge, you need to call the county because this poll worker is talking to me. This poll worker is in my voting booth, and they should not be doing that. This poll watcher is doing these things, and let them know, and we can handle that. Okay. So, yeah. And I don't know the FBI number, but you can definitely give them a call, but be careful because the phones are prohibited in the polling place.
Right.
Those are forms of acceptable ID for voting. Driver's license and your Texas driver's license issued by the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Election Identification Certificate issued by the DPS, The Texas handgun license issued by the DPS, your United States military identification card containing the person's photograph, and U.S. citizenship certificate containing the person's photograph does not expire. And also, last, the United States passport book or card are acceptable ID for voting. So, with that said, I think we've covered the basics. We see you on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And guys, let's get out there and let's knock on doors and make some phone calls. Let's get these people out there that has not voted. We must get in touch with them and call them and let them know we need their vote.
And let me drop one more thing in there. I think someone said something about an app to use. The name of that app is called Minivan, and what that app is that it's going to give you Minivan. It's going to give you it's going to give you a list of addresses. What you do is the Minivan, you're going to get a list number, and when you get that list number, you're going to go to download list number. You're going to put that list number in, and it's going to give you a list of addresses that you're going to go to. Say for instance, I get a list, and the first address that pops up is 520 Campus Street. Then you'll go to Campus Street. You'll have 520 Campus Street, 525, 550, 560, 565, 70, 75, 77, and 80. So that's basically how Minivan works. And what you'll do is that you'll click on that. You'll click on whatever address you go to. You'll click on that, and it's going to have the name. It's going to either be one name or two names. You click on both of those names, and it's going to be a little red thing that pop up that says probably I cannot reach this contact. If it says that if you knock on the door and they don't answer, just click that, and it's going to give you a list. It's going to say not at home, refused, or they moved, or whatever you did. If you lit dropped, if you talked to them, whatever you did. But that's
like phone banking.
Yes, that's basically how Minivan works, and it's real simple. And all you have to do is that whenever you after you leave that address, you just hit sync. It's going to be a little arrow at the right hand corner of your phone, and you just click that address, and it'll sync. And whoever gets it, they'll know that you went by that house and you've either talked to them or lit drunk. So that's basically how it works. It's real simple.
Very good.
So, for instance, I'll see you tomorrow. So
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Francis, Richard, Clonie.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me
so much. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, the next day, and the next day after that to celebrate. All right.
All right.
And I'll see you guys.
Black women have always been on the front lines for social justice.
It's what we do.
We organize, make phone calls,
And yes,
we run for office.
all while being fly.
We stand up
To systemic racism
fight for health care
and justice for all our citizens and use our power, our right, our responsibility.
Black women.
Let's vote. Vote.
For Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Your turn, fellas.
Okay, we got this.
Fellas, brothers,
We've heard our sisters, our mothers, our wives and daughters cry out for equality.
equality all across this country. And now it's our turn.
Our responsibility
to take our power back.
Black women vote more than black men.
And it's time we change that.
Don't give your power away.
Every single vote counts in this election.
Show up.
Show out.
And vote for Joe Biden
and Kamala Harris.